From the Justice Yashwant Varma cash cow scandal to Kunal Kamra and the free speech debate, there are big decisions to be taken by India's courts. But of course, the focus now of the judiciary must be on its own backyard. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. The Supreme Court is hearing a petition that is demanding that an FIR be filed against Justice Yashwant Varma, the Delhi High Court judge, at whose residence a Delhi police video purportedly shows mountains of cash, currency, unaccounted for cash, burning. This during a fire, and that is how this entire thing was discovered. A call from Justice Varma's residence asking for the fire service led to this discovery. Meanwhile, 6 different bar associations have objected to the decision by the Supreme Court to approve the transfer of Justice Varma to the Allahabad High Court. The Allahabad High Court Bar Association says it cannot be used as a dumping ground. The Supreme Court has tried to say that the two decisions are unconnected, but the bar associations are demanding and many are agreeing. Why has the transfer simply not been held in abeyance till the Supreme Court appointed panel completes its investigation? This is only one of the big cases before India's courts. The other is to do with Kunal Kamra, the stand-up comic who has now appealed to the Madras High Court asking for anticipatory bail. This in the wake of summons from the Mumbai police. Kunal Kamra's swipes at Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Eknath Shinde led to vandalism at the comedy club where he was performing. The men who led the vandalism got bail within a few hours. The Kamra question is on a day when India's Supreme Court, in a different case related to a case filed by the Gujarat police against a Congress member of parliament for a poem on his Instagram account, the Supreme Court dismissed that case and made a big statement on free speech, saying that there is no dignified life possible without the freedom of speech. So as I said, we've got a lot to talk about, from the Justice Yashwant Varma case to the free speech debate. All eyes are on India's courts today. I want to welcome our newsmaker to the program now. Justice Madan Lokur is with us. He's, of course, been a distinguished member of the Supreme Court bench and is often known for his very candid observations on the state of the judiciary, but also on civil liberties and a whole host of other issues. Let's start today with, of course, Justice Yashwant Varma. The Supreme Court is hearing a petition that is asking Justice Lokur for an FIR to be filed against Yashwant Varma. Now, I grant the fact that there are a whole host of unanswered questions attached to this case, including how much cash was there, was all the cash burnt, who cleared the debris, how were cash notes found amid the leaves on the ground a few days later, etc., etc., etc. But do you believe that for the judiciary's credibility to be saved, the transfer, at least to the Allahabad High Court, is very curious? Do you believe there should be an FIR, at least an FIR filed against Justice Yashwant Varma?
Yeah, thank you, Barkha. There are 2 or 3 questions. One is about the FIR being filed. Now, I believe that is before the Supreme Court today. It's likely to be heard today. So, really, I'm not sure whether it would be proper to comment on this. That is one thing, because we'll get to know the decision in the evening. What has happened. The second issue is with regard to the transfer of Justice Verma to the Allahabad High Court. In my view, the transfer is clearly punitive. I mean, the decision has been taken that he should not be allotted any cases during the pendency of the inquiry. All right. So, what's the point of transferring him? Because he can remain in Delhi and cases will not be allotted to him. When he goes to Allahabad, if he goes, again, cases won't be allotted to him. So, why transfer him? That's one. The second thing is that, the inquiry is being held in Delhi. All right. So, for him to be transferred to Allahabad and then to, participate in the inquiry, whatever the inquiry, to what extent the inquiry committee will permit him, I don't know. But then, that makes it that much more difficult. Third, by transferring him, the Supreme Court seems to have suggested that, listen, he's guilty. All right. And therefore, I say it's punitive. So I don't think it's a good idea to have transferred him at all.
It's very interesting that you think the transfer is punitive, whereas most people are seeing the transfer as protective. Like most, if you ask Aam Janta will say, why is another court considered lesser than the Delhi High Court? If transfer suggests guilt, as you suggest, right, that the Supreme Court has taken a prima facie view and therefore they're moving him out of the Delhi High Court. If there is guilt prima facie, he shouldn't be in any court. He needs to be suspended till the investigation is complete. To that
Yeah,
extent, and if we can move to the shots of the Allahabad High Court lawyers who have called for an indefinite strike. To that extent, the Bar Association of Allahabad High Court is quite right in saying, are we a trash bin? Are we a dumping ground? If you believe that this judge is guilty, why have you transferred him to us? So
yeah,
I
yeah.
find your take very interesting. You say that there's a suggestion of prima facie guilt in the minds of the Supreme Court Collegium in approving of this transfer. But Justice Lokur, for most people, the transfer should be held in abeyance. Every decision should be held in abeyance till we know guilt or
Right.
innocence.
Yeah, right, right. I'm saying that the transfer should not have taken place. By transferring him, yeah, like I said, it's punitive. So the transfer should not have taken place. I agree. Yeah.
But I think the interpretation that I'm surprised by is that you think the transfer actually means guilt, not innocence. Not
Yeah.
business as usual. Not
Otherwise,
business as usual.
yeah. Otherwise, why transfer him? I mean, if he's innocent, all right, or he's presumed to be innocent, there's an inquiry going on. So let him remain here and participate in the inquiry, to the extent permitted by the inquiry committee. So by transferring him, effectively, and by the way, the transfer took place, it is reported to have taken place, around the time when the committee was being appointed, or maybe just before the committee was appointed. So really, as far as I'm concerned, the transfer is a complete no-no.
So we do have an update in the meantime from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has begun the hearing of the application for an FIR. Justice Oka says, we have seen your prayers. Once the in-house inquiry is complete, all sorts of resources are open. If required, the CGI can direct the registration of FIR. Why should we go into this today? That is what the Supreme Court has said. So we do have clarity now. On what's happening in the court. I'm going to repeat this. The Supreme Court, while hearing a plea for an FIR against Yashwant Varma, says if required, the Chief Justice of India can direct the registration of an FIR. Why should we go into this today? Implying that while the Supreme Court inquiry is already on, they needn't get into this right now. This is what's happening in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, yeah. You see, in terms of the procedure that has been laid down by the Supreme Court in its judgments, you need the consent or the permission of the Chief Justice of India to lodge an FIR. All right. So, therefore, the Supreme Court has said that, listen, it's for the Chief Justice of India to decide whether an FIR should be lodged.
Yeah.
Now, so somebody has to approach the Chief Justice of India for lodging an FIR. That is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that the Chief Justice of India, if he feels that an FIR should be lodged, he can certainly tell the Secretary General of the Supreme Court to lodge an FIR. So it's really, as I see it, in the hands of the Chief Justice to take a call.
But the petitioner who went to the Supreme Court asking that the FIR should be filed, the petitioner says what many common people say. The petitioner says the investigation is not the job of the court. The common man keeps asking the same question: why was no FIR registered on the 14th of March? The 14th of March late night is when the discovery of this money is made. According to the Delhi police, at the residence of Justice Yashwant Varma in an outhouse in those premises. The Supreme Court, while hearing this plea, has taken the position that this is in the domain of the Chief Justice of India. The Supreme Court bench, led by Justice Oka, cannot take a decision on this. And in any case, the Supreme Court inquiry is on, and uske baad dekhenge. Now, what is your own view? Should an FIR have been filed immediately? Should an FIR be filed today? Should the Chief Justice of India be asking for the registration of an FIR? Is the petitioner correct in saying that this is a criminal case potentially, and the Supreme Court can lead an inquiry, but it is not a it's not a forensics led investigator. It's not the police.
Yeah. Yeah. You see, first of all, what happened between the 14th and 21st is not at all clear. All right.
Hmm.
The fire took place, or is supposed to have taken place on the night of 14th March. What happened after that till 21st, when the story broke out,
Yeah.
it's not at all clear what has happened. That is one aspect. The second is that even in the past, when allegations have been made against judges, sitting judges of the high courts, an FIR was not lodged. Okay.
Hmm.
So the procedure that was followed was that you have an in-house inquiry. Okay. The idea is to protect the judge, to at least get him to, to at least for the Chief Justice of India to find out what has happened and then take action.
So you do not think that an FIR is necessary at this stage?
At this stage, going by past precedent, an FIR has not been filed in the past. So I don't see why it should be filed now.
So the case is being heard in the Supreme Court as we are speaking, and Justice Oka seems inclined. Justice Oka, Justice Bhuyan seem inclined to think like you. These are not. This is not a final order from the court. I want to clarify. These are observations that we are reporting in real time. Justice Oka saying, if required, the CGI can direct the registration of the FIR, and that today is not the day or the stage for the FIR. The exact quote is, today is not a day that we can interfere at this stage. This is what the Supreme Court is minded to say. It's obviously waiting for the completion of that Supreme Court led inquiry. Justice Lokur, what is your own take? I mean, obviously, these images that we see on the screen are very damaging. They have damned Justice Yashwant Varma, but there are also a whole list of questions, some of which the petitioner is raising in the court. What happened to the cash? Was there a panchnama? Do we know how much cash there was? How did it disappear by the 15th, by the next evening? Where did it go? Was there nothing left? Was all of it burned? If all of it was burned, how do we have an estimate of how many crores there were? And so
Yeah,
on.
as far as the amount is concerned, it appears to be just kite flying. You can't have a look at burnt notes and say how much is it. And the figures that are going around, okay, it will require a couple of 100 kilos of notes to reach that figure. Okay, somebody has done some kind of a calculation and says that it will require about 300 kilos.
Hmm.
Now, 300 kilos of notes, frankly, I don't see how they can enter a judge's house. All right. So the whole thing is, very shady, and everything, every day, when you open the newspapers or when you're watching TV, you get some new, information or some
Yeah.
new story coming up.
Are you?
So,
How do you believe the how do you judge or assess the response of the collegium? There have been two or three developments in the response of the collegium. The first was a very muddled press statement that sought to explain that the transfer proceedings were not linked to the complaint or to the discovery of the cash. Then came a laudable decision to place everything in the public domain. They just went ahead and they placed the Delhi High Court's inquiry in the public domain along with these videos that we have on our screen. And then came a rather opaque statement that the transfer has been approved. There is also in this case, which, some media reports that say the center has approved this transfer, because remember, the collegium recommends it goes to the center. I think The Wire has reported that the transfer has been approved by the center. We have not been able to independently corroborate that, I should say. But there is the center's role. There is the center's role. The center can sit on the file. There it is.
yeah,
Justice Verma to a center likely to clear files soon. This is what it says, right? So
yeah,
there's
yeah.
also the center's role in this. Now, what do you make of how the collegium has handled this case, and what are the options before the center?
Yeah, you see, I think the first press statement that was made by the Supreme Court was a reaction to rumors going around that Justice Verma has been transferred. So the Supreme Court, decided to quash those rumors by saying that no, we've not taken any such decision. I mean, the collegium issued a press statement saying that we've not issued any such order.
Hmm.
Now, later on, it seems that the collegium did take a call, and that's why they made a recommendation to the government and to the president. It's not only the government; it's the president
Hmm.
to transfer the judge. So even the wire says likely to take a decision.
Yeah.
Now, once the decision is taken, if a decision is taken to transfer him, it will have to go to the president, and it is the president who has to sign the warrant. Okay,
Hmm.
so this is not the end of the matter, all right, and unless the president signs today, and unless a decision is taken by the government today.
So I want to understand this. So the
Yeah,
collegium, by the way, as we're speaking to you, the Supreme Court has given its order for today. They have declined. Can I have the order on the banner, please? Yeah. At this stage, it will not be appropriate to entertain this writ petition. So the petition to ask for an FIR against Justice Yashwant Varma has basically been rejected. That's
yeah,
the order we have
good.
from the Supreme Court while we've been talking to you. But you were now to come back to the transfer, because the transfer
Yeah,
still has to be discussed, right? You are saying the collegium recommends the transfer. The center then approve procedurally. The center then has to approve it, and then it goes to the president for signing.
yes, yes, that's how
Right.
it is.
Right. So actually there are some moves for the government to play as well in this. The government too
Yeah,
has
yeah,
to
yeah,
decide, does it
yeah.
agree with this transfer or not?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The government has to take a call because the government may say that, listen, we don't agree, so we are not sending it to the president.
Right. So the bench that has dismissed this writ petition continues to say there will be several options open for the Chief Justice of India after the conclusion of the Supreme Court inquiry. The petition to ask for an FIR against Justice Yashwant Varma has been rejected by the Supreme Court. The transfer is still being protested. Justice Lokur is explaining the government will have a role, the president has to sign off. So that transfer is not a done deal yet. Now,
Yeah,
Justice Lokur, here's the question to you. The credibility of the judiciary is at stake here, right? No matter where you are instinctively on this issue. And one of a C voter, which otherwise does poll surveys, has actually done a survey on how people are perceiving this case, right? And I think this would be of some interest to you. This is a C voter survey on to what extent is Indian judiciary plagued by corruption. To some extent, say 36.5%, and a lot say 47.5%, which means a majority of people believe that there is corruption in the judiciary, right? If we move on to the next slide, and yeah, this could just be, public perception,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I'm just waiting for the next slide to come up. How transparent is the judiciary? Again, 40.3% say partially transparent and 34.1% say not transparent at all, which is why it was so important that the Supreme Court placed all the material in the public domain. Now, when you look at these responses, and by the way, the survey ends with people saying that they still think, while they think that the rich and powerful are treated differently by the judiciary, 55.9% think that the rich and powerful are treated differently by the judiciary. The last slide is telling the people of India still turn to the judiciary for justice, right? You trust the judiciary to trust justice to all Indians. For all its flaws, the courts remain where people will turn, where people still turn. Now, these are concerning figures. A majority of Indians today believe there's corruption in the judiciary and the judiciary is opaque. Politicians could potentially use this to reopen the debate on how judges are appointed. We've already seen the murmurs in parliament, more than murmurs. What is your concern at this point?
Yeah, you see, first of all, whatever has happened, okay, the recent incident, I think it has no connection whatsoever with the appointment of judges. All right, it's a separate incident that has happened. The appointment of judges is a procedure that has been followed for many years, so it has really no connection. So to try and resuscitate the controversy, I think it's totally unnecessary, and it has been done perhaps for reasons that are unconnected or should be unconnected with the recent incident. That is one. Secondly, to say that the government does not have a role in the appointment of judges is completely misleading.
Hmm.
The government is exercising a veto power on the appointment of judges. All right. So there are so many people whose appointment has been, vetoed literally by the government. So how
Yeah,
can the government say that we have no role in this? They have a role in it. They've held back appointment of judges for years together. In some cases 2 years, in some
yeah.
cases 1.5 year.
Or in some cases,
So
not responded at all. You could
yeah,
just be silent, and
yeah.
therefore it doesn't go through.
Right. So to say that the government has no role is completely misleading. Now, if we proceed on that basis, how much more of a role does the government want? Okay, it has a power of veto, it has a power of withholding appointments. Okay, what else do they want? They want to make the appointments themselves. If that is it,
Maybe,
yeah, yeah.
maybe.
Now, if that is it,
And let me remind you that all political parties have been in unanimity on this in the past.
right. So, therefore, if that happens, that's the end of the independence of the judiciary. And if there
But
is no independent judiciary, we are in trouble. I mean, all of us.
But
All
then,
right.
Justice Lokur, it is while you say that this case has nothing to do with the function with how judges are appointed, all eyes will be on the collegium, right? You
Yeah.
already have protesting bar associations. 6 bar associations have met with the Chief Justice of India. You think the transfer is punitive? They're all saying hold the transfer, put the transfer on hold. Do you
Yeah.
not think that that would have been the wiser thing to do?
Yeah, but the collegium has said, at least that's what the papers have reported, that they heard these bar associations and they said, we'll take a call. Right.
Yeah.
So they will have to take a call and they will have to take it pretty soon. Otherwise, it's possible, like the wire says, the government is going to take a decision pretty soon. I think they
Yeah.
will have to take a call, preferably before the government takes a decision.
But my producers are reminding me that
Yeah.
17 years ago, there was
Yeah.
cash found at a judge's door,
Yeah.
right? I'm talking about a case that you are connected with. A
Yes.
Chandigarh court will deliver the verdict in the Justice Nirmal Yadav case tomorrow. This verdict
Yeah.
is coming tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
taken 17 years, right?
Yeah.
It's taken 17 years. I just want to stay on that case for just a bit. And you were part of the inquiry committee. So much like today, there is a Supreme Court inquiry committee into cash found at Yashwant Varma's home. There was a Justice Nirmal Yadav. Cash was found at his door. You were part of that inquiry committee. It has taken 17 years and the case is being, the judgment is coming tomorrow. So this is when people say, अरे साल ही साल लग जाते हैं, हमें तो पता ही नहीं लगेगा इस केस में हुआ क्या है. So take us back to this Nirmal Yadav case.
Yeah, you see, again, what happened was, some cash was supposed to have been given to her, went to a wrong judge, went to another judge with a similar name. And,
But it was meant for a judge. But it was meant for a
yeah,
judge.
it was meant for Justice Nirmal Yadav. That's what we found.
Yeah.
So, there was an inquiry committee, in-house inquiry committee set up by the then Chief Justice of India, and we held an inquiry. It didn't take very long. I mean, I don't remember how many years how many days it took, but as far as I remember, it maybe took about a week or 10 days or something, maybe 2 weeks, but certainly not, any considerable period of time. And we gave a report to the Chief Justice of India. What the Chief Justice of India did with the report, I cannot say. But subsequently, the judge was transferred from, this was Punjab Haryana High Court, to I think Himachal probably, or Uttarakhand or something.
No, but did you, if I may ask, I should know the answer to this, but did you find the judge guilty or innocent?
Oh, we said that the cash was meant for the judge. Yeah, we did say that.
So, but then why was she transferred and not dismissed?
Well, again, that's where the FIR aspect comes in. So there are two
Right,
options. There are two options to the Chief Justice. One is, on the basis of the report, make a recommendation to Parliament to
right.
impeach the judge. That is one. The other is to have an FIR lodged. So in this particular case, the Chief Justice of India said that let's lodge an FIR rather than going for impeachment proceedings. Why that decision was taken, I cannot say. But having lodged the FIR, the matter just kept dragging on, and like you said, it's been 17 years. So
Yeah,
one of the problems, is the lack of speed in doing
yeah.
this. Now, take this particular, inquiry that's going on, in-house inquiry. Now, if for some reason, the inquiry goes on for 1 month or 2 months or 3 months or something, then the importance of the inquiry or the significance of the inquiry will perhaps get diluted, or if not lost.
Yeah.
So whatever has to be done quickly, right? And then the Chief Justice of India also has to take a call quickly, whether to
What
accept
would be
the
your own what would be your own suggestion that the transfer should be held
transfer. As of
of
now,
yeah.
yeah, no, as of now, he should not be transferred. No, I think I've made that pretty clear.
Basically, he should be stripped of judicial duty till the Supreme Court inquiry can decide one way or the other whether there's a case or not.
Yeah, and he has been stripped of, judicial.
Judicial duties at the High Court of
Yeah,
Delhi.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's not.
What is
Yeah,
your own, what for you adds up or doesn't add up? When you look at the video, of that burning cash, and you, as you said, somebody did the numbers and said 300 kilos would have been needed. And how do you get that into a judge's house? And there are all kinds of rumors, other players being mentioned. The fact is, if this cash was for Justice Verma, somebody gave it to him. Who is that somebody? The Supreme Court inquiry has to go well beyond Yashwant Varma. It
yeah.
has to join the dots. It has to say, where did the cash come from? Who was it meant for? Where did it vanish? Was any cash preserved, recovered? Why does the public not know the answer to these questions?
Yeah, but then you'll have to wait for the inquiry report. Now, the inquiry report can say two or three things. One, they can say that we don't find any evidence against him, right? And probably the money belongs to somebody else or whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
he's not guilty. The second is that the inquiry committee can say, yeah, he has a lot to answer for,
Hmm.
and but we cannot, you know,
Investigate it. We are not the
investigate, and we
investigators.
cannot give the answers to a large number of questions.
Yeah.
In that event, the Chief Justice can decide what to do.
Yeah.
Maybe hold a formal inquiry through the impeachment process, or maybe file an FIR. The third, possibility is for the inquiry committee to say that the judge is guilty, and then
What is
again,
your do you have a prima facie impression?
no, I don't. I wouldn't like to hazard a guess, because the inquiry is still going on. It's just the beginning of the inquiry. I think it started
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not a good
Are there
idea to.
questions? Are there questions that bother you that you feel we should
Oh,
have
yeah,
known the
yeah,
answer to by now?
yeah.
What
There
are
are many
what are
of
those
them.
questions? What are
Oh,
those
there are many
questions?
of them. There are many of them. Many of them.
Share a
What
couple of them.
happened? What happened on the night of 14th? What happened on 15th? What happened between 15th and 21st? What happened on 21st? I mean, every day raises a new question. So
Yeah.
between today's what, 27th, 28th? So
28th.
yeah, at least 14 questions.
At least 14 questions, one for
Yeah.
every day. Right. So the Supreme Court inquiry has its hands full, but I think we all agree that this transfer is a bit peculiar in the circumstances because it will either be interpreted as protection or punitive, or as you interpret it as punitive, others interpret it as business as usual. Uh, Before we let you go, Justice Oka and Bhuyan, who just dismissed this writ petition for the FIR against Justice Yashwant Varma, have had a busy morning. And a few hours earlier, they delivered a big freedom of speech judgment in an unconnected case. This related to a petition where the Gujarat police filed a case against a member of parliament wanting action for a poem. Could we change the banner, please, so that we can have a banner matching what we're talking about? Yeah. Where they wanted action against a Congress member of parliament for a poem he posted on Instagram, right? And the Supreme Court said that they dismissed that case and they said that there can be no dignified life without free speech, right? Now, the reason that this case is attracting a lot of attention is because there's an ongoing parallel debate with the stand-up comic Kunal Kamra, who has applied for anticipatory bail today at the Madras High Court. As you know, the comedy club where he was performing, it was vandalized by members of the Shiv Sena Eknath Shinde faction because one of his jokes was about Eknath Shinde. And those vandals got bail in a few hours. This is what they did. And they said they would do it again. But they got bail in a few hours, and the police has summoned Kunal Kamra. Now, when I juxtapose what has happened in this comedy club with what the Supreme Court has said today, with Kunal Kamra's application to the Madras High Court, the problem, Justice Lokur, is that our justice system is so dependent on the individual judge that precedents don't seem to work. So, what do you make of this whole Kunal Kamra case?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the vandalism must be condemned. There's no doubt about it. Okay, somebody cracks a joke, you don't like the joke, all right? I don't see why somebody should get offended by that joke, but anyway, vandalism is not the answer.
Yeah.
That is number one. Number two, I think we have to respect freedom of speech. We've had instances in the past where a stand up comedian, the police said he's likely to say something which is offensive. Okay, I think some Faruqi probably. He's
Yeah.
likely to say something which is offensive. So therefore they arrested him. Now, you can't go to that extent, that a person doesn't say something and you think he's going to say something, then anybody can get arrested. So, we have to respect the freedom of speech and not just, go to town and say that, well, somebody is going to say something, so therefore let me arrest him. Or I'm going to get offended by something which somebody has said. Everybody can get offended by everything that is said, you know, then there's no end to it.
Do you
So,
believe there's any basis for a police summons to Kunal Kamra? I mean, it's all very peculiar, right?
yeah,
You don't have to agree with somebody, but everything cannot be criminalized.
that's
Speech
right.
cannot be criminalized. And in this, Imran Pratapgarhi case, he had a poem on Instagram which the police filed a case against. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, "No, sorry, this is free speech. You don't like it, too bad. Write a poem of
Yeah.
your own." Right?
Yeah.
Now, my point is why, whether or not you like Kunal Kamra, you like Kunal Kamra, I like Kunal Kamra, we find him funny, we don't find him funny. Why is there a police summons against him? Because he called the deputy chief minister a gaddar, a
Yeah.
traitor, which,
Yeah.
as he's pointed out, members of the opposition to Eknath Shinde have also done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think making a mountain out of a molehill. There's really nothing in it. That's his opinion. That's his opinion, by the way. That
Yeah.
but so what? If you don't like his opinion, you don't like his opinion. Let me tell you once. A long time back, Mr. Fali Nariman used to repeat this story. The House of Lords in England, they gave a judgment. Five judges gave a judgment, which I think the newspaper was the Telegraph. They said the old fools have done it again.
Hmm.
Something to that extent.
Hmm.
And the question that Mr. Nariman had asked one of the judges when he met him was that why didn't you take action for contempt? So the reply was that we are old, that's a matter of fact.
Hmm.
Okay, whether we are fools or not is a matter of opinion. Okay, so why should we take action? So similarly here, I mean, he has an opinion which you don't like, fine, you don't like it. But that doesn't mean that it's a criminal offense. Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And while on this subject, let me say that I'm not at all in favor of criminal defamation. I think the Supreme Court should have struck down the provision on criminal defamation, definitely.
Yeah. Before we let you go, the judges are in the dock, and that famous question, who will judge the judges, keeps coming
Yeah.
back. And the record of the collegium is being examined, with a microscope now. This collegium, the previous collegium, did it stand up for its independence? If it stands up for independence, it has to have unimpeachable integrity, so on and so forth. What what would be your central thought today about keeping the autonomy of the judiciary, but also keeping its integrity intact?
Yes, you see, I have always held the opinion that there are some shortcomings in the collegium system. Okay,
Yeah.
we need to debate and discuss these, and not just say that collegium system needs to be. It has to be debated and discussed. There are a lot of checks and balances within the collegium system. All right, I think we have to recognize that. Third, there is nobody has given a substitute to the collegium system. The only substitute people are talking about, or at least hinting at, is giving the power of appointment back to the government.
Yeah.
Okay, if that happens, like I said, we are in trouble.
All right, let's wait and see what happens with the Supreme Court inquiry, as well as the transfer orders to Justice Yashwant Varma to Allahabad High Court, also with the Kunal Kamra case. A busy day, certainly, for the Supreme Court's bench, led by Justice Oka and Bhuyan, delivering two important judgments on free speech, as well as that case related to Justice Yashwant Varma. Thank you, Justice Madan Lokur. Always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Take care.
thank
See you
you.
soon.
Yeah,
See you soon, sir.
thank you. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.